The Indiana Fever haven't been the league's golden franchise until now. For years, they've been stuck in the rebuild cycle. Just another team trying to stay relevant in a league dominated by big city brands and long-standing powerhouses. But that all changed the second they landed her, Caitlin Clark. Now Sandy Brondello is walking straight into the eye of that storm. That's right. It's official. Sandy Brondello is joining Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Let that sink in. This isn't just a coaching hire. This is the coaching hire.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The one people have been whispering about for months. The one fans have begged for, analysts have speculated over, and the league may have quietly dreaded. Because Brondello doesn't just coach teams. She transforms them. She walks into franchises and reprograms their DNA. She doesn't care about market size, flashy narratives, or keeping things cute for the cameras. She cares about winning. Period. And now she's been handed the keys to the most-watched rookie in WNBA history. You think that's a coincidence? Absolutely not. Let's rewind to how this all unraveled. Brondello was fired. Yes, fired. From the New York Liberty after one of the most successful runs in team history. She brought them to multiple finals. She delivered a championship. She made the Liberty, for the first time in forever, feel inevitable. And how did the front office thank her? By pulling the plug, calling it a performance decision, and ghosting her like a bad breakup text. To the outside world, it looked like madness. But for those watching closely, the writing was on the wall. Brondello's success was no longer convenient for the Liberty's long-term narrative. She'd done the unthinkable. She made them too good, too quickly, too visibly. And in a league that loves controlled story arcs and curated parody, that kind of success becomes a problem, especially when it coincides with the rise of another disruptor, Caitlin Clark. Because while Brondello was orchestrating deep playoff runs in New York, Clark was storming onto the pro scene like a lightning bolt. Her college career was already the stuff of legend. But in the pros, she came with a chip on her shoulder, a media frenzy at her heels, and millions of new fans watching her every move. And if you watched that 2025 All-Star game and really paid attention, you saw something that should have sent chills down every league exec spine. Clark chose Brondello, not figuratively, literally. She made a trade to bring her in as her coach. On a weekend meant for fun and fluff, Clark made a power move. And Brondello? She responded like a coach who'd been waiting for a player like this her entire career. Their chemistry was instant. Their language? Basketball fluency. Their energy? Electric. And it didn't go unnoticed. Fans started begging for it. Sports networks ran segments about the possibility. Analysts were practically foaming at the mouth. But the league? Quiet. Too quiet. It felt like something was being held back. As if the idea of this pairing was too powerful, too risky, too disruptive. Because make no mistake, putting Brondello and Clark together isn't just building a contender. It's threatening to blow up the league's entire power structure. And maybe that's exactly why it had to happen. This move doesn't just benefit the Fever, it exposes the league. It strips away the safe narratives, the packaged storylines, the carefully constructed hierarchies. It says, we're not waiting for permission anymore. Brondello didn't take this job because it was easy. She took it because she saw what was possible. She saw a young phenom being treated more like a headline than a human. A generational talent trying to carry a team and a league on her back, with no one in her corner strong enough to fight with her. Until now. Because Brondello gets it. She's been in rooms where power plays mattered more than performance. She's been pushed out for being too successful. And she's not here to play nice anymore. This partnership is about control. Taking it back. Owning it. Daring to build something that doesn't rely on league approval, but on results. And Caitlin Clark? She's ready. No more trying to fit into someone else's system. No more being told to tone it down, slow it down, shrink her game for the sake of others. Brondello isn't here to tame her. She's here to unleash her. Expect the playbook to open wide. Expect spacing, freedom, tempo, and matchups tailored specifically to Clark's gifts. Expect the entire system to bend to her strengths instead of asking her to shrink to fit in. And don't be surprised when the wins start stacking up. But more than that, don't be surprised when the backlash starts too. Because now the league has a real problem. A duo they can't control. A franchise no longer interested in playing the background. Clark isn't just coming for Rookie of the Year anymore. She's coming for everything. And Brondello is going to make sure she has the tools to take it. The rest of the league should be nervous. Because this isn't just a star player and a veteran coach linking up. This is the start of a movement. One that says you don't need to be a legacy franchise to matter. One that says women in sports can take control of their narratives, on and off the court. One that says if the league won't hand you the power, you take it anyway. This moment is bigger than basketball. It's about the future of the WNBA. Whether it'll continue to operate like a private club where the same few teams pass the baton every year, or whether it'll open the gates and let the next generation redefine what dominance looks like. And now, the Indiana Fever, of all teams, are leading that charge. With a 22-year-old phenom and a two-time champion coach at the helm, they've gone from background noise to front-page problem. And they're not asking for approval. They're just winning. So buckle up because this season, it's not just about games anymore. It's about legacies, narratives, power. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like that power is shifting. Sound off in the comments. Are Caitlin Clark and Sandy Brondello about to take over the league? Or will the old guard fight back even harder? Smash that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into the drama the league doesn't want you dissecting. And stay tuned, because the storm in Indiana has only just begun. This isn't just a new chapter for the Indiana Fever. This is a full-blown rebrand of their identity. They're no longer just a rebuilding franchise hoping to stay afloat in a league filled with legacy powerhouses and coastal media darlings. With Caitlin Clark and Sandy Brondello officially in the building, they've become a problem, one the WNBA isn't quite sure how to handle yet. And honestly, that's kind of the best part, because for the longest time, Indiana was the polite team, the quiet team, the we'll get him next season team. But now, they've got edge, swagger, a little chaos in their DNA. And for a league that's been teetering between tradition and transformation, the Fever are now the face of the revolution. Let's talk about why this pairing is sending shockwaves through the league office. Caitlin Clark is not your average rookie. She's not here to slowly develop under the wing of a safe veteran or spend 3 years adjusting to the pace of the WNBA. She came into the league with a flamethrower and expectations the size of a sold-out arena. Her name alone sells jerseys. Her presence sells hope. But up until now, she's been operating in a system that felt restrained. Like everyone around her was walking on eggshells, scared of doing too much, too fast. Like the front office wasn't quite sure if they wanted to embrace her stardom or manage it. And then comes Sandy Brondello, calm, composed, championship caliber, and she doesn't flinch. She looks at the pressure, the headlines, the camera crews, the noise, and just shrugs. Because she's been here before. Brondello knows what it means to coach a superstar. She's done it. She's coached through media scrutiny, roster drama, and playoff heartbreaks. She's had teams blow up, rebuild, and rise again under her leadership. So when the world starts swirling around Clark like a tornado, Brondello doesn't panic. She grabs a whiteboard and draws up a play. That's what makes her so dangerous. She doesn't get distracted. She doesn't chase narratives. She plays the long game. And with Clark, the long game is everything. Because let's be honest, the league has been trying to figure out how to contain Caitlin Clark since day one. Not support her, not build around her, but contain, as if she's this unruly wildfire that needs to be carefully supervised instead of let loose to burn down outdated systems. And now, the one coach who won't play by those rules is standing right next to her on the Fever sidelines. What do you do when the player you've been trying to keep in check teams up with a one coach who might actually amplify her? If you're the league, you try to ignore it. You issue polite press releases. You highlight parity and competitive balance. You throw attention to other rising stars and hope people don't notice what's really happening in Indiana. But it's already too late. This duo isn't just a basketball pairing. It's a power statement. And it's a direct challenge to the established WNBA ecosystem. Because Brondello wasn't just fired for performance. Let's be real. Coaches with worse records are still cashing checks. She was pushed out because she didn't fit the mold anymore. Because she was too successful, too confident, too unwilling to cater to the invisible politics happening behind the curtain. You don't fire a coach like that unless you're afraid of what they're capable of. And now she's been handed the most electric rookie since Diana Taurasi and told, here, build something. You can already see the outlines of what's coming. Clark's game? Faster, sharper, more confident. Brondello's system? Built around movement, spacing, reads, not rigid structure. It's basketball jazz, and Clark is thriving in it. Meanwhile, the rest of the league is stuck wondering if they just slept through the beginning of a dynasty. Because here's the thing about super teams. They're usually bought. Big market, big names, big money. But this wasn't built in a boardroom. This was built in the ashes of league politics. Out of disrespect, out of underestimation. Clark was told to stay in her lane. Brondello was shown the door. And now they've teamed up, not to prove a point, but to dominate. And don't think for a second the other teams aren't already rattled. Suddenly, you've got rookies circling dates on the calendar like it's a playoff matchup. You've got veterans giving side-eye in post-game interviews. You've got entire fan bases realizing the Fever might be the new villains or the new heroes, depending on your angle. The media can't even keep up. They're still trying to figure out how to spin this. Is Clark the second coming of Sue Bird or a Gen Z version of Kobe? Is Brondello a mastermind or manipulator? Is Indiana lucky or just smarter than everyone else? Honestly, it doesn't matter because the product on the court is undeniable. We're watching something click. The kind of player-coach chemistry that can't be faked. The kind of intuitive, instinctual basketball that doesn't come from schemes. It comes from alignment, vision, mutual trust. Clark plays with fire. Brondello gives her the oxygen. That's the blueprint. And if you're watching this in real time, you know, this isn't just a season. It's a beginning. The WNBA has never seen a storm quite like this. And it can't stop it now. So what comes next? Expect the Fever to start winning games they shouldn't. Expect blowouts, buzzer beaters, and viral clips that melt through the algorithm in seconds. Expect record-breaking viewership, packed arenas, and headlines that don't just talk about what happened, but how Indiana pulled this off. And quietly, expect other players to take notice. Because star players talk. They text. They watch each other's games. And they see what's happening in Indiana. They see a young superstar being empowered. A respected coach getting her groove back. A franchise no longer begging for relevance, but demanding respect. How long before someone says, I want to play there? This is how empires are born. Not with splashy free agent signings or rigged draft lotteries, but with conviction, with clarity, with guts. Indiana didn't just roll the dice. They stacked the deck. And now they're playing their hands so well, the rest of the table is panicking. You love to see it. So, let's be honest, this isn't just a win for the Fever. This is a win for the game. It's a win for every rookie who's been told to wait their turn. Every coach who's been pushed aside for doing things their own way. Every fan who's been waiting for something real to believe in. Caitlin Clark and Sandy Brondello didn't ask for permission. They took it. And if you think this is the peak, you're not paying attention. The storm is just beginning. The Indiana Fever are no longer the quiet underdog in the WNBA. They're no longer the team you skip over when you're scrolling through box scores. With Caitlin Clark lighting up the court and Sandy Brondello now steering the ship, Indiana has gone from a rebuild project to a revolution. And the scariest part? This was never supposed to happen, at least not this fast. The league has been playing tug-of-war with narratives for years. Certain franchises are marketed as the faces of the league. Certain players are positioned as icons in the making. And then there's Clark, the disruptor. She doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't care about fitting into carefully curated marketing arcs. She shoots from the logo, shakes up arenas, and forces conversations. Now, add Brondello into the mix. A coach who has already proven she can topple the chosen ones and drag teams into greatness whether the league wants it or not. Together, They're a nightmare for anyone trying to keep control of the WNBA storylines. Because here's the truth. Brondello didn't just take this job to coach basketball. She took it because she knows what this means. She's been burned before. She brought New York to the promised land and was tossed aside like she was disposable. She proved her system works, that her teams win, and still got labeled a liability by people who couldn't handle her success. You don't walk away from that experience quietly. You come back with something to prove. And Caitlin Clark? She's the perfect partner for that kind of vengeance tour. Think about it. Clark is the kind of player Brondello has always thrived with. Fierce, fearless, smart, confident enough to take risks, but coachable enough to respect the bigger picture. Brondello doesn't need to babysit her. She doesn't need to micromanage. She could just unleash. And if you thought Clark was dangerous before, wait until she's backed by a system designed specifically to amplify her. Let's be real. Last season, you could see flashes of brilliance from Clark, but there were also moments where it felt like she was forcing it. Where the spacing was wrong, the plays were stiff, the energy didn't flow. That's what happens when a generational player gets shoved into a generic system. But Brondello doesn't do generic. Her coaching philosophy has always been about flexibility. She builds around her stars, not over them. She lets the system breathe so her players can create, improvise, and take over when the moment calls for it. With Clark at the center of that philosophy, forget it. The ceiling is gone. This is where things get juicy. Because the rest of the league now has to make a choice, adapt or get steamrolled. The Aces, the Liberty, the usual super teams, they've built their empires on depth and money and media spotlight. They're used to being in control. But what happens when a team from Indiana, yes, Indiana, starts pulling ratings, selling out arenas, and winning games by double digits because a 22-year-old and a fired coach decided they didn't care about the script? The old guard won't like it. Not one bit. You'll start to hear the subtle pushback. Analysts questioning whether Clark is dominating the ball too much. Commentators suggesting Brondello's system is risky or unsustainable. The whispers will start. Little reminders that the establishment isn't comfortable with what's happening. But fans? Fans won't care. Fans are already locked in. They're watching Clark pull up from 30 feet and Brondello smiling on the sideline like she knew it was going the whole time. They're feeling the energy, the chaos, the sense that something real is happening in Indiana. And they're not about to let the narrative get spun into negativity. Because this isn't just about Indiana. It's about proving that the WNBA doesn't need to be controlled to thrive. That storylines don't have to be manufactured. That when you let talent and leadership collide naturally, the product becomes undeniable. That's why this pairing feels so dangerous. Not just because it could win championships, but because it threatens to expose how much of the league has been curated. Clark and Brondello are proof that greatness can't be gatekept. Now here's where it gets even more exciting, the ripple effects. Players across the league are watching this unfold. They see the freedom Clark has under Brondello. They see how the system bends toward her instead of boxing her in. And you can bet they're thinking about what it would feel like to play in that kind of environment. This is how dynasties recruit themselves. Not through trades or front office pitches, but through envy. Through the silent thought every competitor has when they lose a game. What would it be like if I was over there? And don't think Brondello doesn't know it. She's building something magnetic, something that attracts talent, just by existing. If the Fever become not just a team, but a destination, the entire balance of the WNBA shifts permanently. Which brings us back to the league itself. They can't control this forever. They can't bury it under marketing campaigns or reroute the spotlight. Every viral highlight, every upset win, every packed Fever home game will make it harder to pretend this is just another storyline. At some point, they'll have to embrace it. And when they do, they'll act like it was the plan all along. But we'll know better. We'll know this wasn't scripted. This wasn't orchestrated. This was rebellion. And it all started with one coach who refused to stay quiet and one rookie who refused to play small. That's the real story here. Brondello and Clark aren't just building a contender. They're rewriting the rules of engagement. They're saying no to the politics, no to the suppression, No to the idea that success has to be earned only on someone else's terms. They're taking it. And you can already tell, this is going to get messy. Beautifully messy. Expect fireworks. Expect rivalries. Expect tension so thick you can feel it through the screen. And most of all, expect the fever to become the heartbeat of the league, whether the WNBA likes it or not. Because you can't stop momentum once it's started. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. And you definitely can't silence a duo this powerful. Indiana isn't waiting for the future anymore. They are the future. And the rest of the league? They better get used to it. What do you think? Are Caitlin Clark and Sandy Brondello about to break the league wide open? Or will the establishment fight to keep control? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that subscribe button if you're here for the chaos. And stay tuned, because the fever are cooking up a storm, and we're all about to get caught in it.